Well, most writers do revise, of course, but there is, I think it's attributed to Ginsberg, first thought, best thought, which has never really worked for me. And I think that's because it takes me so long to formulate a thought worthy of articulation. And it takes me so long to articulate my opinions in a form worthy to call thought. But this is not to deny anybody else's primary experience of first thought, best thought. My mind takes in and idles for a time before it can contribute to the surround sound. So I think one of the hardest parts for a writer is fear. Fear about everything, fear about the crack between the baseboard and the wall, and fear of the blank page, fear, just everything. So I'm not afraid of my shadow, but I'm afraid of the shadows. And I know there's no way over or under that. I have to go through it. I have to go all through the tall, wavy grass, the cold, dark river, the muddy ooze, through the cave, everything, if I'm going to go on this bear hunt. So I just kind of surrender to that I'm going to have to go through it. It's going to be a long way through for me, that I'm not a deadline writer. I have tried that a few times. It hadn't panned out too well for me. So I'm also, on the other hand, while I exercise quite a bit of restraint in my own writing, I'm not a huge fan of ultra minimal poetry, because there are many exceptions to this, because I kind of feel if your resistance to language is so strong, then why not just join a silent order and get it over with? And on the other hand, I have a great admiration for the virtuosity of sensitivity to not wasting the language, not just vomiting on the page, So for myself, I have to make a lot of notes. I have to do a lot of reading, watch films, listen to music, collect little totems. I usually have a whole shelf full of stuff that is somehow, for me, resonant with my project. And then I have to create a clearing where there's not too much that enters in other than diurnity, which is inescapable, unless you've joined the silent order. So it's an arduous process for me. It's an idiosyncratic process, which I think it is for everyone. I think everyone has to create their own, so-called methodology. It becomes a habit, kind of the way you approach a project, or you approach a single poem, a single line even. And so I think that you have to have a resistance to inhibition. Initially, tremendous resistance to inhibition. Like, I can't do this because, I don't have the right zip code. I can't do this because I'm a WASP, albeit lapsed. I can't do this because I don't have enough knowledge, or I don't have the pedigree, or whatever, all of that. I think you have to just shove all that off because those cops are always on the beat 24 hours a day to tell you can't do this and you can't do that. So that part is, I think, very important, is to exercise a tremendous amount of resistance to inhibition. And then after that, I think you have to install your own inhibitors that makes sense for that particular effort. That this initiative requires this kind of maybe formal mechanism to make your little machine go, or this requires a more attendance to the verb, or this requires this or that. In the end, I am I enjoy the editing process more than the writing process, and in the end I am tweezering words in and out, or else I am picking them up like they're giant boulders, moving them into position only to realize it's in the wrong place, and I have to move the boulder again, this time further uphill, So those are the two poles of it, I think, is dismiss the inhibitions. They're always going to be there, the internal and external, and then install your own. I remember Robert Creeley saying the idea about writing programs and writing coteries and such was to teach you how to get it on by yourself, which is what it is. It's how to create your own critique of yourself,
So that's...
Well, we think in prose. We speak in prose. Usually what I put down is fragmentary or in sentences. I don't really worry about what form it's in initially. Lineation is rather simple. And I mean, there are lots of things you can do with it, but it's really a rather simple exercise. So that, I agree with Juan Felipe that a poem doesn't have to be a poem, The poem evolves out of the material. It kind of dictates the terms to you, for me at least, rather gradually. It's not a highly accelerated, high-resolution, thing. It really gradually comes into focus. For instance, in a writing group, I think that people are very attached to their work, however much of the mess they have let into it, they're very attached to it and they take it very personally. Someone can say don't take it personally, but it's impossible not to take it personally. So I think that what happens in a critique is you don't really hear it, what someone is saying for the most part, because inside you're defending your front, and but what you hear is what is said to other people about their pieces.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you get like a key word often dropped in that you really can relate to. And I think that's the way a group critique works fruitfully, as far as what an individual mentor, sometimes they're spot on, sometimes it's just wind. Mm-hmm. I really do think you have to trust your own perceptions, not give too much authority over to someone else about the writing. And you have to be willing to fail at it, of course,